Now, this was one I frantically got on LinkedIn for, which probably tells you the answer to your question. No, I don't. In fact, prior to you reaching out to me, I don't think I've ever met a French occupational psychologist. So the short answer is not immediately. So, but there is a little bit more to that. So a lot of psychologists in Australia end up working in positions where they use their psychology skills, but are not in a position for a psychologist. So what I mean by that is, if you just take the big four consulting companies like KPMG and Deloitte, a lot of them work in like the human capital and human resources consulting teams, where a psychologist's skills are useful, but you don't have to be a psychologist. In fact, most psychologists I know of don't work in a psychologist position. If you want to practice in Australia with the title psychologist, there are particular requirements that you need to go through. So you need to have your diploma assessed for equivalency. I think there's an English language test you need to do if your most of your tuition wasn't done in English. And I think there's another hurdle to jump through. So it is a bit of a process to transfer over. But I think one of the good things about organizational psychology is you can come to Australia, you can still use your skills, but you just don't have to call yourself a psychologist to do so. So it depends as to, whether you want to go through the full process to gain registration in Australia, which can take a little bit of time and can cost a bit of money, or whether you just want to come over, work in a position where you can use your skills, but you just couldn't call yourself a psychologist. So it was a thought-provoking question reading that. So I've spoken throughout here as organizational psychology because that's the day-to-day term. If I was to be technical, I would probably say that the work I do at the Navy is very much personnel psychology based.
Oh, okay, yeah.
In terms of, it doesn't involve the whole org transformations, the culture change management pieces of work. Interestingly enough, so I went and looked at a competency matrix, which I'm doing for that 2-year endorsement program that I referenced before, and I'm happy to share that with you.
Oh, yeah.
And it says some of the core knowledge is to understand the difference between industrial psychology, organizational psychology, personnel, and vocational psychology. But those are not distinctions that are commonly found in Australia. In fact, I think you would struggle to find a psychologist in Australia who understand the difference between the terms. I have a vague understanding. I don't know how correct it is, but it's certainly not a distinction that's commonly made and not something that's referenced a lot in job advertisements. Most people would just say organizational psychology. They don't even refer to the IO part. It's just the O part. No. Some people might say states of Australia are like other countries, but no. No, only ever worked in Australia. It's always really interesting meeting psychologists who've worked overseas. So a mentor of mine worked in both South Africa and the UK for many years. Another mentor worked in Canada. And I've met throughout my time as a psychologists who've worked in New Zealand, in Europe. I think one worked in South America at one point as well. And it's always just interesting to see how they see the world differently. And so I would love to be able to do that at some point for however long, not sure. But I would like to work overseas, yes. And again, I think it's a great idea. I really, really do think it's such a cool idea, and I'm surprised no one's ever thought of doing it before. But there you go. Some of the best ideas, seem obvious when you see them.